Today we are going to be driving the all-new Mark 8 VW Golf GTI Clubsport 45. Now the 45 bit refers to the number of years the Golf GTI has been around. While that might not be quite Porsche 911 levels of enduring appeal, Golf GTI is still one of the longest running nameplates in the performance car sphere. To celebrate this, we are not only going to be getting hands-on with the GTI Clubsport 45, but we are, and I'm excited to say this, going to go right back to the beginning with this Volkswagen UK's pristine Mk1 GTI Pirelli 1.8 litre from 1983. But before we begin, please do remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it and to subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel, hitting that bell icon to turn on notifications. 3 doors, 112 horsepower, 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.2 seconds, 114 miles per hour flat out. The numbers might be lackluster by today's hot hatch standards, but at the time they marked the then new GTI out as something remarkable. The public agreed, and around 460,000 were sold. Stats aside, this is a remarkable little car. For a start, it's just so small. Look at it. And it's light too. A Mk1 GTI comes in at comfortably under 900 kilograms, which of course is why the performance is still so respectable. And goodness, isn't it just so elegant? I know that we're in a world now of 1,000 horsepower hypercars, but for me personally, the Mk1 GTI is still top tier as far as dream cars go. I have been lucky enough in my career to drive every other generation of Golf GTI, but not the Mk1. In fact, my only experience of a Mk1 GTI was back when I was 10 or 11 and my cousin, who just bought a used one, took me and my dad for a spin. Now back then I was sitting in the back and I remember it. It was really the first performance car I'd actually been in. It felt like it was propelled by rockets. Today though, well today it's my turn to drive. As I said, this car belongs to Volkswagen UK. We're driving it as part of a press event. Now that means we've only got half an hour in the car because there is a queue of people who are eager to drive it. It also means that it's absolutely pristine. The odometer shows just 45,000 miles, and of course the car has been meticulously cared for. As a result, it should be as tight and as lively as the GTI was when new. The engine in this car is a 1.8 litre, it's a 4-cylinder, and of course it's fuel injected, hence the I in GTI. And this might be an old car, but do you know, it feels strong. In fact, it's the most defining feature of the car. The gearbox is actually quite precise, it's just got a long throw. But the car, it still goes, you know. It's still a bit of a rocket. The steering is quite slow, but then once it does start to bite, it's got lovely weighting to it. Brakes, spongy. The ride's not bad, but you know the main thing? It's just that engine. It just feels so eager. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Much of the ride and handling is dictated by the car's low curb weight, which means that it does change direction quite quickly once the steering's got some lock on, and it feels tiny on the road. These days a Mk1 GTI feels pretty raw, apart from anything else due to the lack of sound deadening. But back in the day, this was a real do-it-all kind of car. It was practical and affordable as well as fun and exciting. It was, in short, a car that really could put a smile on your face. Question is, 45 years worth of evolution later, is a brand new Golf GTI Clubsport 45 still capable of the same? Absolutely! On the numbers, the new car wins hands down. While it might be several hundred kilos heavier and boasts an engine that's only 200cc larger, it's also several moons faster. Thanks to a turbocharger, the 2-litre engine in this Clubsport 45 makes 300 horsepower. Now that's 55 more than a standard Mark 8 GTI, and while it's not 4-wheel drive like a Golf R, a combination of a clever diff, electronics, modern tyres and this really fast changing DSG gearbox allow it to get from 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 5.6 seconds. The top speed, meanwhile, is 166 miles an hour. That top speed is thanks to one of the upgrades for this 45 model, which removes the GTI's normal 155 mile per hour limiter. There's also styling details like the black roof, spoiler and mirror caps, and a titanium exhaust from Akrapovic, which sounds absolutely awesome. Now all of this comes on top of the Clubsport specification, which among other things add bigger brakes, just makes the GTI a sharper, more involving car. And if you use the driving mode and you stick it in sport mode, this car's got adaptive dampers. So as well as that, there is a special mode on the drive mode, which gives you kind of the sharper settings of sport, but with a softer damper mode, because the Nürburgring being very bumpy. And that actually really works on UK roads as well. In this mode, this Clubsport 45, wow, it's terrific. It's sharp. Steering's nicely weighted. Doesn't have loads of feel through the wheel, there's a little bit. But the engine is just a monster. It pulls and pulls and pulls. The gear shifts are nice and fast. Listen to that. And yeah, it just feels, it's got that scrappy edge to it, which is so nice in a hot hatch. You know, Golf GTIs tend to be such good all-rounders that in standard tune they can lose a little bit of that eagerness, that scrappiness. But yeah, this Clubsport really puts it back in there. Wow, what a car. And all this resides in a car that is much more modern and safer than something like a Mark 1. You know, in that Mark 1 I had great visibility and simple controls, whereas in this I've got crumple zones and touch screens. And when you're talking about hot hatches being so evocative, it's easy to be a little bit cynical about things like all these screens and stuff. But in reality, for most people, for every one thing that the Mark 1 does better than this, the Mark 8 is probably better in at least a dozen other ways. So I guess the questions here are twofold. One, is this better than a Golf GTI standard? Yes, it is, no doubt about it. Is it better than a Golf GTI Clubsport? Probably not, because really, with these upgrades, it's mainly aesthetics. You're buying them because you want the badges, you want the occasion that comes with having a 45. Whichever way you cut it though, GTI Clubsport, really cool car. There have been Golf GTIs in the past that have been a little bit lackluster, Mark 3, Mark 4 in particular. This Mark 8 isn't one of them. Certainly in this Clubsport specification, this thing is really impressive. It's a really, really good Golf GTI, which must make it one of the best Golf GTIs there's ever been, right? Yes and no. You see, this is clearly a very impressive car. It's so fast, it's so capable, and it is packed with technology. In fact, I'd wager there's probably more technology in one of these matrix LED headlights than there is in the entire Mark 1, 2, 3 and 4 Golf GTI combined. However, there is a risk that the combination of the Clubsport and then the 45 upgrades mean that this particular Golf loses a little of the subtlety that GTIs are renowned for. Then there's the price. At £40,000 before options, this Clubsport 45 is not what most people would describe as an affordable hot hatch. Mind you, for what you get, nor is a Mark 1 GTI these days, with the good examples now highly sought after and priced accordingly. Which in a roundabout way kind of leads us into why it's so great that this 45 is here, not just because it's a really good car, but because of what it signifies. That's 45 years, 8 generations, and more than 2 million sales of Golf GTI, a hot hatch that has generally throughout its history been at least pretty good and at times been outstanding. Within that back catalogue, there's a Golf GTI for all budgets, needs and tastes, including some great special editions like the Clubsport 45. Personally, while I adore the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 and Mark 7 for that matter, and I really respect this Mark 8, the highlight of the Golf GTI range for me is the Mark 5. That's the one that I think best encapsulates everything about the Golf GTI. But what about you? I bet you've got a different favourite GTI. Why not let us know in the comments? Plus, of course, please do subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel. And remember, if you're looking for a Golf GTI or indeed any car, head to cargurus.co.uk because that is where you're going to find great deals from top-rated dealers.